Welcome back to Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo and today is Friday, February 23rd, 2018. And let's find out what's going on in the world of bodybuilding and fitness. Once upon a time, the Roman Empire built some of the most amazing architecture the world had ever seen. And now, more than 2,000 years later, it looks like our old friend Roman Fritz is doing his part to keep a little bit of that old classic Rome tradition alive. This week, a few progress photos dropped of a remodeled and reloaded version of the 20-something superstar, where he dropped a few not-so-subtle hints that he might be considering making the switch to classic physique. Once again, Fritz is coming in from what turned out to be another wildly productive off-season, and true to form, he's still sporting some of the most insane off-season conditioning in the business. But to squash any rumors right here, Roman let me know that he'd need to drop a solid 25 pounds of muscle to even make the weight. And quote, that just isn't happening. Expect to see Fritz on an open pro bodybuilding stage sooner than you may think. I wouldn't exactly call myself an expert on Australian weather. But then again, you don't have to be a meteorologist to figure out that it gets pretty damn hot down there in the outback. And now that the Arnold Australia is officially in sight, I think I might just have discovered why the temperature has suddenly shot up a few degrees. It's probably from the newest update photos from Naked Awesome bikini bombshell, Melissa Carver. Over the last 2 weeks, Carver and her team have been dropping a steady stream of updates, letting it be known to the rest of the bikini world that she's about to bring the thunder. Even at 100%, Carver's going to find herself up against some of the most elite talent that the division has to offer. But if she can use that home court advantage to her favor, I guess you never know how the chips may fall when the evening is said and done. Right now, we've got a lot of guys trying to jockey for a position to take the crown at the first ever Classic Physique event heading into the Arnold weekend. And if you've been looking for a potential dark horse to hitch your wagon to, now that we're heading down the home stretch, second-year standout Kenny Owens might not be a bad place to start. Recently, we were able to get our hands on some new update photos of Owens, who really made an impact with his third-place performance back at last year's New York Pro. As an active-duty E5 sergeant in the United States military, Owens had to endure hell and high water throughout this prep, including the death of a family member and some serious training obligations that almost derailed his prep on more than one occasion. And now that this new and improved version of Kenny O has overcome it all to find himself staring with a date with destiny, I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to be ready to step up and handle the challenge. Here's a quick trivia question for all you physique nerds out there. What's the name of the athlete competing in this year's Arnold Classic who already has a record 9 Arnold titles on his resume? I'll give you a hint. The first initial starts with a D, and the last initial starts with a J. And less than 2 weeks away from attempting to be the only athlete in history who can lay claim to having double-digit Arnold championships and 6 Arnold USA titles, one of the best to ever do it looks like he's on the warpath once again. In the few updates we've gotten from Dexter Jackson over the last 3 weeks or so, he's looked like the vintage Dexter every step of the way. And when you're an all-time great at the top of your game heading into a place that feels like a second home, it probably doesn't bode too well for the rest of the competition. As we start getting closer to some of these big shows, you start to learn more and more about some of the stories behind the athletes who are about to go out there and bear it all on the stage. And one of those stories that really caught our attention this week was from one of our favorites in the figure division, Jessica Padilla. After having her home and her life decimated by the catastrophic devastation that occurred when Hurricane Maria touched down on the island of Puerto Rico last year, Padilla, like so many of her fellow countrymen, found herself trying to piece back together the ruins of her life to provide some sense of normalcy amidst it all for her mother and her young son. And yet, in spite of the swirling storm of chaos that surrounded her recovery efforts, she still decided to seize the opportunity to compete in this year's Figure International without a single complaint. Now, with less than 2 weeks to go before stepping on stage for what will absolutely be one of the most emotional moments of her career, sources close to Padilla told us this week that we should expect to see the best version of Padilla we've ever seen. And when you see an athlete overcome adversity like this and use the sport as a life raft to support herself during the times of need, it puts into perspective how important it is to live your passions. And that does it for yet another edition of Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, reminding you to always be true to your passions, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.